Welcome to the On Pace podcast. Today we're talking with Vanessa Grichine from runitofflife.com. After suffering multiple knee injuries during her years as a soccer player, she started running to get back in shape. She has ran 12 marathons, with the most recent being Boston. She combined her love for food and fitness with Run It Off Life, where you can follow her race career as well as find out the best spots to get some food. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So how'd you come up with that idea? Just the love of food and the love of fitness, and you just combined it together?
Yeah, when I lived in New York for years, that's the last time. I had previously hurt my ACL while playing soccer. So in New York, if you've ever been, amazing food always. And a lot of my good friends were influencers on social media with food. So we'd always be going out to events and eating and having all these, meals to take photos of the food, and they would never eat the food. And so I would tag them all,
Wow.
eat all the food. And I was like, wow, if I'm going to be doing these, I really need to start burning the calories. So then I would go to the events, eat the burgers, the pizzas, everything, and then find races or long runs to go do. And everyone's like, wow, why do you run so much? I was like, well, I'm eating all this food. I really need to run it off. And so my goal was initially to just spread awareness of people would say, oh, yeah, I ran a mile. I could eat this piece of chocolate cake. And I was like, not exactly proportional. So I started to actually run the mileage that was required to run off the food. And that's kind of how Run It Off got started.
So what type of mileage are you running to run off the food choices that you're making?
It depends on what you're eating. And roughly it's about 100 calories per mile. So depending on, what you eat, that's where the long double digits runs usually come in.
Yeah, I have to put in some serious mileage to keep up with my poor eating habits.
Yep. And that's where the cheat days come in, usually followed by long run days. But it's all about the moderation. People are like, oh, I can't eat that. I had a good workout. And I was like, I'm going to eat that because I had a great workout. And so it's all really about just finding that balance.
So what's your favorite foods to get indulged with?
If it's in New York, it has to be Ainsworth mac and cheese burger.
Oh my
It's
God.
just delicious. They have the patty, but then there's a second patty made of mac and cheese, deep fried, and it's amazing. I mean, that and ice cream. I will never say no to ice cream. So it's kind of my two go-tos.
Oh man, I should have ate before I did this podcast. This is brutal. So you spent how many years did you spend playing soccer? And obviously you said you had injuries, but what were they?
So played soccer all growing up, and then played in high school, and then even played in college. And then my junior year in college, I tore my ACL.
Oh, that's bad.
That was pretty painful. Had that repaired, took about 4 months to get back into it, started playing soccer again, moved to New York, was playing soccer almost every other day in addition to running, ended up tearing my ACL again. And after that, the doctor kind of was like, lateral movement just isn't for your knee. You really need to stop playing. So started taking up running, started racing in New York, realized I wasn't slow. And so then started just seeing like faster and faster and faster. And then races kind of started conflicting with soccer games. And once you've been through 2 ACL surgeries, I realized I did not want to do that again, and decided that just could not play soccer anymore. So would play once a year on my birthday, was kind of the joke. And then started just racing more and more and more. Unfortunately, last November, while racing, I tore my ACL again. So next month, I get to get that repaired again.
Did you have to get it reattached or just?
No, because I completely split it in two. So first time I
Oh,
had to take a tendon for my hamstring, they repaired it that way. Second time, they had to take a cadaver, so someone's Achilles tendon, make that into my ACL. And now this time they'll be taking a piece of my quad and making that in my ACL. So,
that's some pretty serious surgeries.
yep, but worth it if I can run again.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I know if I had to like just bum around and do nothing, I would lose my mind, and I'd rather have.
It's going to be about 3 months of no running coming up. So that's why this last year did the Great Wall of China Marathon, did LA Marathon, did the San Francisco Marathon, did the Boston Marathon. I made sure I kind of got my fill in, and then recover, and fingers crossed can do the New York Marathon in November if I get cleared for it, and then Tokyo next year.
Oh, Tokyo. That's like one of my bucket lists to go do a event in Japan.
Yeah, mine too. It's one of the 6 world marathons. So I've done 3 of them so far. And so I still have London, Berlin, and Tokyo to complete. And at Boston this last year, I qualified for Tokyo. Honestly, after my next knee surgery, I don't know if I'll be able to qualify for Boston again. So got to get it in while I qualify.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's good. Yeah, I really want to go to Tokyo. That'd be so cool.
I've never been. I'm really excited. I've heard it's amazing.
Yeah, everybody that goes there that I know, because normally I live over in Southeast Asia, and
Okay.
everybody just speaks so well of the Japanese. Like they're so polite, and
Yeah, the culture is just respectful and beautiful.
I just imagine the way they put together a race must be something special.
Also, there's Tokyo Disney. I kind of wanted to please reason to go.
So how did Boston go?
Boston went fairly well. It was my second time running it. So I ran it first in 2016, and that was apparently the hottest year that there was for Boston. So this year when I went and it was completely pouring, I was caught off guard, and everyone else said, "Oh, this is how it is every year." And I was like, "No, it's not." The year I ran it was perfectly warm and sunny, and apparently that was the outlier year. So Boston went well. I was aiming for a 3:15 or a sub 3, but unfortunately, without an ACL, I could only run so fast. And so my shoes were completely muddy and soaked because everyone apparently prepared well for Boston and they brought old pairs of shoes and old socks because after you grab the buses for Boston, they take you to the start to Athletes Village. And that's out of school on you're sitting on like a dirt field, which dirt with rain, it's just a muddy swamp. And so you'd have to get up into your ankles in mud to even go to the porta potties or anything. So I'm trying to keep my shoes clean. Didn't work. And I see other people just with older shoes. And when it was race time, they just took their shoes off, donated, and put on their racing shoes. So if anyone does Boston, I highly recommend take 2 pairs of shoes. And so that way I wasn't expecting to be soaking while I started the race, but thankfully it didn't rain during the race. It actually got really warm, which a lot of runners weren't expecting, but ironically I was. And then it went really, really well until mile 16. I was averaging about a 7:13 pace. So I was really happy. And then my knee just gave out without the ACL. And I was like, all right, I can't run that fast. So I had to slow it down, but still finished about a 3:20. So I was really happy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All things considered, that's actually pretty great.
Yeah. And so allowed me, like I said, qualify for next year, allowed me to qualify for Tokyo. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. But fingers crossed after the ACL's fixed. I don't know, maybe one day I'll do a sub 3, but not really holding my breath.
Well, as long as you can run, right? That's the most important part.
Exactly.
So you have a little nice story of your favorite event I read on your website. Go ahead, tell that.
So there's definitely 2. So the Dopey Challenge, Disney World, but my favorite marathon ever would be the San Diego Marathon. So I got my entire family into running. And so on June 5th, we ran the San Diego Marathon in 2016, which was 5 days before I got married. And my whole family participated, not my now husband, then fiance, but his only request to my entire family is no one better be walking weird down the aisle. Because you run, you always know after a race, sometimes the muscles get sore, and I was still planning on wearing 4-inch heels in my wedding dress. So his one request was just make sure you can fit into the shoes and walk normal. And that's actually where my PR was. It was my brother's first marathon, but don't worry, I still beat him. Also my goal. And my whole family finished. I ran in 3:15 and was walking in heels 5 days later to get married. So
walking normal.
No one could really tell. I thought we all looked fine, but yeah, no, I was actually not sore after, felt really good. And that was probably the peak of my running career and still able to dance all night, wear the heels and enjoy my wedding.
That's got to be a hard promise to keep with the ACL injuries. And
yeah. Well, thankfully back then, like when I still had one of the ACLs, wasn't really having any issues, no IT band issues or anything. So I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll be fine. And thankfully I was.
Does the injuries in the ACL have drastic effects on your IT bands? So they tighten up more?
Absolutely, yeah. Whenever the ACL helps keep your knee from moving lateral, so every time it kind of wants to turn in more, that puts more strain on your IT band. So, for example, when I was running the Chicago Marathon, I had major IT band issues, which did affect the running. And so now learning with rock tape and KT tape how to tape my knee to compensate for my ACL, so I don't have those issues. But yeah, it's kind of once you're missing one part of the body, when the other parts try to compensate, that's where injuries happen.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be having issues with their ACLs and stuff like that when they first start racing. It
Yeah,
messes up their IT bands and they don't know what to do. What
yeah.
what type of advice would you give some people? Uh,
With
yeah, go ahead.
AC band issues, it's definitely, I hate to say it, rest. I actually just had a good friend on Instagram who just finished the Flying Pig Marathon, and he had the same issues. Messaged me, said, I messed up my IT band. What do I do? And I said, stop running. It's inflammation. And so people think, foam rolling is good for stretching it, but at the same time, it irritates the muscle. So you can definitely over roll it. But
Yeah.
Motrin, ibuprofen, icing, stretching, things like that are probably the best thing. And I jokingly told him, just stop running. He was like, no, I can't. I need to keep training. I was like, stop running. It'll feel better. You're going to get a PR. And he was like, wow, don't lie to me that hard. I was like, okay, try to make him feel better. And he messaged me yesterday. He got a PR. I do not recommend having IT band issues to get a personal record, but with the IT, it's just really resting and icing it and getting that inflammation to go down, because that's essentially all it is.
Yeah, I was having some serious IT band issues for a while, and I'm a bit stubborn, so I just kept pushing and pushing, and
Yeah.
came to a point where I couldn't put on my pants, and
But
so I had to just get on the elliptical and sacrifice some weeks of training and keep on the foam roller to get that back to normal.
yeah, it happened to me too, and that's why I found out even just elliptical was bothering it too. So I just took a solid 2 weeks off, iced, ibuprofen, and then finally got back together. And now I'll do stretches. I do my foam roller religiously, stretching after my long runs, which I never really did. But what I really found out in my training, anything over double digits, ice bath. I hate ice baths. They're miserable. The first 3 minutes absolutely is torture, but as soon as I iced, kept any of those issues from really coming back. So I definitely recommend anyone training long runs past double digits, just a 15-minute ice bath after does wonders.
Yeah, I love doing sauna and ice bath. It's kind of pretty much like needed. Just
Yeah,
keep that body healthy and lubricated
oh,
because
it absolutely is.
just all that
Yeah,
pounding through all your muscles and tendons just adds up and it becomes brutal, especially if you're not doing anything for it.
completely agree.
And then if you go sit in a chair all day, then that's even worse.
Yeah, all that inflammation is going to cause more irritation, and then you're going to start cramping up, and it's just a nasty cycle. So you got to do what you can to keep it from getting worse.
So, what was the lowest event to date? I'm sure there's something that comes to mind.
Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago Marathon. I jokingly don't count it in my head because it is the only marathon that I didn't qualify for Boston for. And so that's when everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Slept in, missed my alarm, got to my corral as the race was starting, so had no time to stretch or warm up or use the restroom. And I was so focused on going into my starting corral that I kind of bypassed all that. I do run with music. So I had my cell phone with me. That died around mile 8, which for me was really, really hard. And then around mile 12 is when my IT band started hurting. And then at 16, that's when it cramped and just every muscle just cramped. I made the mistake of stopping to stretch around mile 18, my hamstring, which made my quads cramp. And it was just everything that could go wrong just went wrong. And at the end, I was like, this sucks. This absolutely sucks. And so in my head, I don't count Chicago. I will be back to redeem myself. But probably the most important thing I learned in that race was doesn't matter what time you start. If you start with your corral, if you start with a later corral, your race starts when you cross the finish line. So, for example, at Boston, I actually did miss my starting time again because I was waiting in an hour-long porta potty line, and I was with another runner, and she's like, "Oh, we have to go." I was like, "Trust me, this is more important. We start when we start." And so I was supposed to start Boston at 10:35. I didn't start till a 10:55 group, but I got my mile warm up in. I got my stretching in. that is way more important. It's still frustrating when you start because you still have to dodge other runners in front of you that aren't necessarily at your pace, but that's worth it to have a proper warm up than anything. And at least I learned that from Chicago and will not make that mistake again.
Yeah, I have I have a similar race story with the shirt I'm wearing. Just everything that could have possibly went wrong, I did wrong, and also my exteriors were all wrong. But it's still like this is probably the best race I have in memory because it taught me everything I needed to know for future races.
Yeah.
Which is super important because everything was going too good before that. All my races were hitting PRs.
Yep.
I was having great times, and then this one came along and just ruined my day.
A little spoonful of humility to be like, you are too. Shoot.
Yeah.
That was Chicago for me.
So what type of training routine do you keep yourself to?
Normally, I actually use the one that Boston suggests. So honestly, doesn't matter if it's for the Boston Marathon or not. Boston was my second marathon that I ever ran. So training for the first one, I just used the Nike Plus Run app, saying
Yeah.
goal is to run this many miles, this is when the race is, and the app itself tells you what to run every single day based on your level of running experience. And then with Boston, they do send you workout plans, and there's different levels depending on how many days you can run. So I used to always, top level, level 4, train, and I realized I was overtraining. And so kind of brought it down to level 2 and 3. So running 5 or 6 days. And the nice thing is Saturday, Sundays, the long runs, Mondays you take off. Then it has a slower run on Tuesdays. Speed workouts is what it incorporated. Anyone running
Super
a
important.
marathon, I highly recommend it. Yeah, that's when I noticed my time started getting faster, was doing the speed workouts, which you wouldn't think speed and short distances would help for your long distances, but really, really does. And then cross training. So do belong to a gym where they have body pump classes every so often. So I always try to go to the body pump classes because you don't realize how much your abs, your arms, everything really help your running. Because when your legs are tired, pumping your arms really helps get you that momentum. So usually that's the kind of typical path I follow.
Yeah, with so many things that people don't realize are going to increase your times, or at least increase your time or the way you feel out on the track. Like Pilates, yoga will strengthen all your tendons and will keep you limber and able to actually use all that stuff that you work so hard for in your training. Your speed workouts they're almost one of the most important because they're going to raise your VO2 max, and they're going to make your legs stronger, and they're going to make your nervous system quicker to respond to each step, which is what you need when you're pushing at max capacity for those long races.
Yeah.
And weight routines also, it's going to strengthen your tendons, your ligaments. It's going to help with that, and it's going to help you fire faster out there as well, and keep your muscles more intact for longer of the race.
Yeah, no, it really makes a big difference. So anyone who's even considering trying to get increase their PR about the long runs, but short, fast runs, speed workouts makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's just doing those long runs, you don't you just break yourself down if you just keep trying to go longer and longer. 16 kilometers is a pretty good long run for most people starting out. Don't go too far past that because it's, unless you got something else in mind like ultras, you're just going to break yourself down.
Yep.
So run it off life. But let's go in a little more depth with that, since you're a foodie and a fitness freak. What's this to inspire other people? Like, just give them a little more knowledge about using a training routine with their food addictions?
Essentially, yeah, I always make sure I correlate long runs with my cheat days, either before or after. And so I just kind of Run It Off Life kind of started as my own personal blog. So I would remember how my training went because, you've trained for a race for 22 weeks. When you go to the next one, it's kind of like, wow, was this normal? Did this happen to me last time? So I started writing about my training and my eating so I could go back and actually remind myself, okay, this is what I did last time. Maybe that didn't work. Should I switch it up? But then also showing people it's like, yep, this is what I'm eating. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, how can you eat that? Well, because I have 16 miles to run tomorrow, you need fuel. So that's where, the pizza or the pasta nights to come in before the long run or after my long run, get up early for lunch, go to some, brunch buffet because you also need to refuel. But then also showing like during the day, I would put up meal preps because I don't eat like that every single meal. My breakfast is usually avocados with some rice cakes. For lunch, I'll have some salads with meat and fruit. So not every meal is a cheat meal, but when I have a cheat meal, I have a cheat meal. And so Run Off Life is kind of just my way to put it all together. And I do my race recap. So if people want to know about races or where I stayed, what things you can do while you're there, it's just to give people kind of an insight. Not everyone has the opportunity to travel to races, but they might want to know more about it or, really plan for it. So that's kind of where Run Off Life puts the whole collection of everything together. And then if they're kind of curious what my workout plan is, because with Boston, you only have access to the workout plans if you're a participant. And so that's kind of my way to share, like, hey, this is what my goal is this week. Use this to try to gauge yourself. And what I like about it also is in my workout plans, I have my own pace, but that's for my goal. You can still do the same workouts, just change the pace based on your goal. So it's kind of a nice place for everyone to get motivation and inspiration to plan their week of where to run, how to run, and if they're craving some good food, they can look at that too.
Yeah, most runners don't have a secret training plan that we stick to, because it's just putting in the hard work is the secret, and we don't need to keep that secret from people.
Exactly. I mean, it's not everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's just you just run forever. It's like no, and I do have to admit, some days if the training run's only 3 or 4 miles, I don't know if it's worth getting my hair sweaty for that. So sometimes may not do that run, but the longer, tougher runs that just don't sound enjoyable, 1 mile repeats at a really fast pace. That's the effort that goes into it. And unless you have a way to find out that that's a workout you can or you should do, how are people going to get better? So
Yeah, exactly. And most all runners want everybody to get better. We don't want to see anybody dropping off on the track.
yeah, oh, that's definitely the worst. Running by someone and just seeing them cramping really bad or not making it or collapsing. That's probably one of the worst things in races, but also makes you really realize how wonderful the running community is. Because you could be having the best race, and as soon as you see someone go down, your instinct isn't to hop over them; it's to stop and say, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah.
And the amount of times that even in Chicago, I had people offer to, encourage me, push me, offer to help me, and I was just like, "Hey, don't risk your best time for me. Go." And then other people saying like, "Yes, I can do this on my own," and helping them, and just you want to see, goodness and humanity. That's when you watch a marathon.
Yeah, that's what it is, really. Just a bunch of people trying to get better at something in their life and using the long distance running as a tool, and we all know how goddamn difficult it can be.
Yeah, this brings people together.
Yeah. And back to the nutrition thing, like so many people try to stick to these healthy down the line diets, but they don't realize like those cheat days is your body telling you, hey, I need like extreme amount of saturated fat to keep these hormones developing. Can you please go eat this I don't know, 2 patty mac and cheese burger so I can get that from you?
And it's also is keeping your body guessing. I've been very fortunate. My husband's very much into fitness, and he was Mr. Santa Barbara and really knows how to affect the body. And oh, hello, my puppy just came in here. Good morning. How to switch up the metabolism and everything. And it's all about keeping your body guessing. If you're constantly eating the same things and just having the same routine, your body kind of knows what to expect and it doesn't keep it switching up. And so that's where high carb day, low carb days, and different type of meal and cheat days come in, is because it does keep the body and the metabolism guessing. It never knows, oh, should I eat more of this? Should I store this? It's just always learning to run on different types of protein.
Yeah, that's what I like to do, keep my body guessing. Some days I just fast for like 24 hours and go for a long run.
Yeah.
It's horrible, but it works very well to keep my body just like, oh, can't get comfortable with what you're giving me, so I have to keep finding a new way to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of the same thing with all the training. Even with the ice baths and the sauna, it really helps your body keep guessing different temperatures, running in heat, running in the cold, stuff like that will help you get better.
Yeah, it
Not,
learns to adapt and just work with what it has, and then doesn't let it plateau.
yeah, perfect explanation. So what kind of personal records do you have? You said you ran a 3:15 marathon. What else?
Yep. So 3:15 is my record for a full marathon. 1:34 is my record for a half, working to get under 1:30. And then for the life of me, I'm trying to run a 5K in under 20 minutes, which I know might be very easy for most people, but personally, I get faster as I run longer. And so
Yeah,
my
same.
5K is still 20:04, and just have not been able to break that sub 20-minute yet. But those are kind of my records I'm working to beat right now.
Yeah, that's kind of the same for me. My splits always get faster as the longer I go, which is not normal for people.
I feel like you're like me. It takes some time to kind of warm up and get going, and once you have that momentum, then you get
Yeah,
fast.
easy to keep pushing then.
Mm-hmm.
So you, oh, sorry, I got lost for a minute.
You're good.
So what kind of day-to-day life with running and your personal life, how do you fit that together? Like, do you
I treat running like an appointment. So
appointment?
yeah, I'm an eye doctor, so I work in LASIK, refractive surgery, cataract surgery, that area, and so like even now, I'll be leaving for work soon. But I either plan it if it's a shorter run, getting up early if I have something going on at night, to get my run in first. Otherwise, I take my gym clothes with me and just like you have a doctor's appointment right after work. I don't even give myself the option. I change into my gym clothes at work and just head straight to the gym, and then I go home. Usually when I go home, that's when my family's there, my husband's there. We start talking, you get comfortable, you start nibbling on food, and then you're like, oh, I might as well eat dinner now. Oh, well, now I don't have time to run. And, you can always find an excuse. But if I treat it like an appointment. If someone wants to go to dinner or go to an event, I'm like, that's fine. This is a mileage I have to run. I know how long it takes me to run it, and I just make sure it's built into my day. So I think the biggest thing though is taking my clothes to work, changing, and don't really give myself an option. I just drive straight to the gym first, get my workout in, and then I go home.
Yeah, I some days I have to get up at like 3 a.m. to make sure I get my runs in, but
Yep.
I damn well getting up at 3 a.m. to get it in because I know I'd rather sleep like 2 hours less and know I got my workout in than have that haunting feeling of being at work all day, knowing
You
I
have it
didn't.
because something's going to come up that keeps you from getting it done. You get done first thing in the morning. You're already awake. You're mentally ready for the day. Your appetite, your metabolism's burning. So sure, someone brings donuts to work. You're like, oh, I already ran. I can eat that. Sure.
Yeah,
As opposed to, oh man, I got to make sure I run later.
that's perfect. I like that. Makes me feel so much better about eating during the day because
Oh, yeah.
if I don't run, then everything I eat, because as I said before, I'm a bit of a glutton. It has to get done when I eat, so I have to make sure I'm keeping on that road fitness, or
Yep.
otherwise I'll blow up like crazy. I can gain like 20 pounds in 2 weeks. It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
really. That's that's where the run it off comes in.
So you talked a little bit about some dream events coming up, like Tokyo. Go a little bit more in the depth why you chose your goal of running in every world marathon, even though it may be easy.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. Kind of, I'm always looking for the next challenge. Even for me, if I don't have a race that I'm planning for, it's really hard to get myself out to run because it's kind of like, I could do this. I could do this instead. But once I did Boston, New York, and Chicago, someone had asked me at the events, "Oh, are you doing all 6 worlds?" And I said, "What's that?" And then they said, Chicago, Boston, New York, Berlin, Tokyo, London, and they showed me the medal, and I'm part of my language, a medal whore. That's what we joke about, call it in my family, because it's like, ooh, I don't know if I want to run that race. What's the medal look like? And so I was like, I want that medal. And my husband and I love traveling, and we kind of decided what better way or excuse to travel than a race. So goal is to do all 6 worlds, to run on every continent, and I'm trying to hit the 50 state club too. So, there's certain states that personally wouldn't really have a reason to travel to, like, I don't know, Idaho or Utah. Nothing against them, but I had a girlfriend get married in Utah, happened to be on the same day of the Utah Marathon. So I said, well, sure, why not? And so it's really just an excuse to travel, and you get to meet people from all over the world. And runners are just amazing. You meet the runners from that country or that community, you make friends, and it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, every time I go to travel somewhere now, that's like look up the race planner on the internet. Let's see what I could do there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gets ridiculous. Yeah, I think every runner has their little dream events that we get that keeps us inspired to keep motivated and running.
Yeah, you need those goals. That's what you have to go for.
Yeah, that's what people always ask me. How do you keep motivated? It's like I've got like a sick mind. Like if I'm not doing something extreme, I'm just not motivated. I'll just be lazy and lay in bed.
Yep.
So I've got the sickest ultra marathons in the world logged in my head, and that's what keeps me going every day.
That's what you're gonna go for. So that's great. Yeah. Same. I always need something that I'm working towards or working for.
Yeah, if you're not working towards anything, there's no motivation. That's
when it gets hard. Yep.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to broadcast to some people?
Not really. My only thing would be a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I could never run that far. I couldn't even run a mile. Me neither. Did cross country in high school, and I absolutely hated it. And back then it's 3 miles. And now, I'm like, oh, it's a slow day. Let me go run 10. And, I was not born a runner. I am very short. I'm about 5'1" 3/4". So I don't have this huge, long gait. Most people, when they look at me, they don't assume that, I'll be running as fast as I am. But it's just because runners come in all different shapes, sizes, and you don't start off running a marathon. You start off running a fun 5K and, running with a friend. And, in the back of your head, you're kind of like, okay, I hope I beat you. And then you see your time and you wonder yourself, can I beat that time? And then the next time you sign up for a 5-miler, and then, a 10K, which is just a 5K one way. And then you turn around and you do a 5K back. And so it's like little things like that. You're not going to start off being a marathoner unless you accidentally sign up for a race like I did to my husband. So he's now a marathoner. But, no one starts off that way. So it's those baby little steps. And whether you walk a mile or run a mile, you still did a mile. And, just make it a little bit longer each time. Before you know it, you're running your first half. And then all a full marathon is a half one way and then a half running back. And so really breaking it down like that, anyone can really get into running.
Yeah, and the thing with running is like no runners are really competing against you. Everybody's kind of competing against themselves until you get to like the top, which a lot of us aren't going to do.
They are born that way then. The top ones, then you're actually just born a runner. But
yeah,
you're right. The best form of competition is against yourself.
Yeah, it's always what it is. It's never, you can't make it against anybody else either, because if you do, you're going to get discouraged, because when you look at your results and your 300th out of, I don't know, 1,000 people, it doesn't mean anything really. It just means that you actually finished an event. That's still amazing.
Exactly. And how well did you do against yourself? Purest form of competition, because you're evenly matched.
Yeah, even now when I finish a marathon, it's still in my head like, oh, I actually finished another marathon. That's insane.
Yeah. And a lot of people realize, marathon, oh my gosh, how can you run the 26 miles? That's just the end game. The marathon's hundreds of miles of training. That's the impressive part. So the last 26 is just the fun part.
Yeah, that's just to show what you work for, pretty much.
Exactly.
Can you let some people know where you find your website, social media, whatever you would like to get out there?
Yeah. So my blog and my website can be found on runitofflife.com. And then on Instagram, they can always follow me at runitoff. Website was supposed to be Run It Off, but apparently it was taken. Hence, I had to add life, because it is all about my life. So on runitofflife.com is where they can find all my running recaps, my recommendations. I also do product reviews. So if I like a certain product, that's when I'll put it on there. Like, for example, Mizuno, I work with that shoe company. And so they've sent me the last 2 Wave Runners. And actually the last one that they sent me, their Wave Runner 3, Highly recommend. It's my new absolute favorite shoe. As soon as they sent it to me, I was actually in the middle of training for Boston. As soon as I put those on, I went, these are my shoes. And I did what no one should do. I switched shoes in the middle of my training workout. Never had an issue. And that's actually what I ran Boston in. So on the website, they can also, see my own experience with these products, because I won't write about anything that I don't personally try. And whether companies like it or not, I'm very honest about it. So that's where they can find it. And then also on Instagram, Run It Off. That's when they can see, my stories, little insights into more of the food I actually eat day to day, and just about my running and my life.
Yeah, and it is a good website. That's where I was checking out some stuff about before this podcast. So definitely go check it out. It's interesting. Okay, thanks. We have been speaking with Vanessa Grichine on the On Pace podcast. Thank you very much for coming on, sharing with us. You can find our podcast at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at On Pace Podcast, Twitter at Pace Podcast, and www.onpacepodcast.com is our website. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a great day and good luck training.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.
Welcome to the On Pace Podcast. Welcome to the On Pace Podcast.